everyone, it's Annie, welcome back to BloomTV, and today I'm going to do my January wrap-up, which is, if you don't know, all the books that I have read in January. And I did just try filming this video, but it became too long, so I'm not, instead of just saying like which ones I've read and what actually they were about, I'm just going to say what they were and if I like them or not, and that way it'll be a lot quicker and you won't have to sit through me rambling. So the first one isn't really a book, it's a book but not a proper novel, and it's the Elizabeth Journal by Did I say Elizabeth? The Isobel Journal by Isobel Harrop. And this is not really a coffee table book, it's just got sort of doodles and illustrations by Isobel with sort of these sort of little phrases and observations in them, and I love this. I thought it was so good. I've wanted it for ages, and I picked it up in Hatchards in London the other week, and I just love it. I love her style of drawing, I love her illustration, but I also love her writing as well, and it's just, the humour is so British. Like, I know that sounds sort of awful to say in some ways, but it's so relatable, and for any teenager, wherever you're from, and I really liked it, and I just could relate to it in a lot of ways, so I loved that. And then the first proper book that I read in January was Joanna Trollope's rewriting of Sense and Sensibility. Now this is part of the Austen project, which is where 6 sort of really famous authors rewrite the 6 completed Jane Austen novels, and this was the first one, and I think it was published in October last year, but I just got it now in January because I had a book voucher, and this was really good. Sense and Sensibility is one of my favourite Austen books, just because I love Marianne and Helena. Oh gosh, mind block. And this is really quite easy reading, unlike Austen, which can take a bit of a while to get used to. This is sort of an easy sort of way to sort of read the story. I read it fairly quickly, even though it was quite thick, I think, and I really liked it. I love the sort of way it was written. I mean, it's never going to be the most deep things because it's Austen and it's fairly playful in some ways, but it was so good and I really liked it. I thought that the way she wrote it was brilliant, and I'm really looking forward to the next one, which I think is Northanger Abbey, though I'm not entirely sure who was rewriting it. But the next one is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, which I got for Christmas, and this is the first sort of little section of book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and there's 5 of them in total. I've got all of them, but I've only read the first. This is really good. Again, I love the humour in these books. It is very British, as Douglas Adams I think says in a letter to the American publishing company when they were publishing it in America, and it took me a while to get into it first because it is so bizarre. You know, I've never read anything like it, but you kind of get used to it, and I'm really excited to read the others because I love the humour. The next one is one of my favourite books that I've read so far this year. I know it's only been a month, but this was so good, and it's Mal Pete's Life: An Exploded Diagram. And this is set just when the Cuban Missile Crisis is coming to sort of the climax, and which is 1962. And it's set in Norfolk, which is in Britain, and it's about a working class boy called Clem, and he falls in love with this landowner's, sort of estate owner's daughter called Frankie, who's very exotic, and he's never met anyone like her really before because he goes to an all-boys school. And they're both sort of 16, 17, and I just really liked this. It was so good, it's unlike any young adult novel I've read really, and I really liked the way of writing, and I really want to read some of his other books now, so yeah, very exciting. And the next book was kind of weird, and it's The Mermaid in Chelsea Creek by Michelle T. Very bizarre sort of fantasy-ish book, I guess, but it's fantasy, but sort of realistic fantasy. I really don't know how to class this, but I saw it in Waterstones. I've never heard of it before, and saw the cover and was like, that looks nice, I'll buy that. I liked this, it was alright, I finished it, but I didn't love it, and this is the first one in the series, but I don't think I'll be buying the rest of them because I wasn't that bothered about any of the characters really. And the next book is also a really good book that I'd really recommend to anyone, and it's Codename Verity by Elizabeth Vine or Wayne. I featured this in my first ever YouTube video, which was my book haul, and This was so good. I'm so glad I bought this after people recommending it to me for ages. It's just, the writing of it is brilliant, and like I love the characters, and it doesn't really have a main central sort of, it's not based on it's not a love story, and I normally sort of pick up books that only have love stories in them, you know, they have to be a pretty integral part of the plot, but this didn't, and I still loved it. I thought it was really good, so I'd really recommend this to anyone. The next book was kind of a weird one. I've wanted it for ages, but then I actually read it and wasn't that keen on it, which was kind of funny, and it's Office Girl, and then it says a novel by Joanna. This is set in the end of the 20th century in Chicago, and I love Chicago. I really want to visit because every book I've read which is set in Chicago I've always really liked, apart from this one. This is kind of weird. It's like an art student, two ex-art students. It was very, I'd say, hipster. I hate using that word, but it was very sort of out there. It wasn't, they seemed to take pleasure in being completely, I don't know, they just wanted to be different, and that's fine, but just the way they went about it, and it just, they were kind of, I just didn't really like Adele. I liked Jack, who was the main male lead in it, but Adele, the female one, I just couldn't, I didn't like her, I didn't sympathise with her at all, but it was alright, but I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone. Like, I really didn't get on with it. And then the penultimate book I read, which is like my guilty pleasure read, was Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. This was so good. Like, if you don't like vampire books, because you've maybe been put off by something like Twilight, which by the way I do like, but I know a lot of people don't like, this is really good. It's so funny. I like the style of writing. I love the characters of Rose and Lisa, and I'm really excited. I can't wait to read the other ones. As soon as I finished this, I wanted to go out and buy the rest of them. Then I was like, no, be sensible, you know, read some of your other books first. Then the last book, which I actually finished this morning, actually, ooh, went really out of focus there, is Elsewhere by Gabrielle Zevin. Again, this was a book I really hadn't heard of before, but I just saw it in Waterstones and read the back, and it sounded really good. And I really enjoyed The Lovely Bones, which was told from the perspective of someone in heaven and looking down on their family, and this seems sort of similar. So I thought, oh, I'll read that. That looks good. And this was good. I loved it was a brilliant idea I think, and the way it was told was good, but sometimes the writing was a bit choppy and changed in and out, and I didn't really like that. It didn't really flow. Like, she seemed to be one place and then the next paragraph she was somewhere completely different, and you had no idea how she got there. The main character, this is. So I was a bit like, really? But other than that, I really liked it, and I thought it was a really good idea, and it was like a good plot. And the cover, again, so pretty. And those were all the books I read in January. I think there's a total of 9, if you're including the Isobel Harrop, which took me about 2 hours to read because it's very short, there's not very much writing. But they were all really good. I had a pretty good reading month, I think, and now I've just got tons of other books to read. I'm sure I'll get through them all. So I'll see you soon, and like and subscribe if you liked it, and share if you could, because that would make me really happy. So bye!